It was the pinnacle of the food chain. A 6-ton monster with teeth the size of butcher knives. And an appetite that never ended. Tyrannosaurus rex wasn't just a predator. It was an evolutionary killing machine, so perfect that scientists are still discovering new secrets about its terror today. But what really made this dinosaur the most efficient killer in prehistory? The answer goes far beyond its razor-sharp teeth, and involves a secret weapon that few people know about. It was the pinnacle of the food chain. A 6-ton monster with teeth the size of butcher knives, and an appetite that never ended. Tyrannosaurus rex wasn't just a predator. It was an evolutionary killing machine, so perfect that scientists are still discovering new secrets about its terror today. But what really made this dinosaur the most efficient killer in prehistory? The answer goes far beyond its razor-sharp teeth, and involves a secret weapon that few people know about. Asterisk, asterisk. Before we can understand how the T-Rex hunted, we need to understand its perfect body machine. Let's start with its eyes, two yellowish orbs the size of tennis balls, positioned forward like those of a modern wolf. Asterisk, asterisk. This binocular vision gave the king of dinosaurs such accurate depth perception that it could accurately judge the distance to prey from 300 meters away. For comparison, an average human can barely hit a target from 50 meters away without practice. Asterisk, asterisk. While we see in a 120-degree arc, the T-Rex could see 180 degrees, enough to see it approaching Triceratops out of the corner of its eye as it munched on another victim. And here's the ghoulish detail. 2023 studies at the University of Manchester proved that its eyes were specially adapted to detect movement in dim light. Asterisk, asterisk. In other words, if you were a baby Edmontosaurus trying to hide it, sunset, you were literally glowing in this monster's night vision. Asterisk, asterisk. But the eyes were just the targeting system. The real weapon was what paleontologists call the hunting computer, an elongated 400-gram brain, smaller than your smartphone, but with specialized areas that would make modern supercomputers jealous. Asterisk. The olfactory bulb occupied 30% of the brain mass. To give you an idea, a sniffer dog has 5% dedicated to smell. This means that the T-Rex could detect a decomposing corpse from 15 kilometers away, the equivalent of smelling a barbecue in the next neighborhood while you're locked in the basement. Asterisk. And it wasn't just any sense of smell. Chemical analysis of fossils at the Natural History Museum in London revealed that its nostrils had cells specialized in identifying adrenaline. Yes, it literally smelled your fear. Picture the scene. You're a baby hadrosaur lost from the herd, sweating in panic. And here comes the predator, guided by the scent of your terror like a thermal missile. Asterisk, asterisk. Now combine these ingredients. Vision that sees in the dark, smell that identifies emotions, and ears that worked like primitive sonar. The T-Rex's ear canal was aligned to pick up ultra-low frequencies, those noises that make your stomach churn before you understand where they're coming from. In 2021, paleontologists at the University of Texas discovered unusual muscle attachment marks on the bones of its inner ear. The conclusion? Its eardrums vibrated in tune with heavy footsteps up to 3 miles away. While other dinosaurs had to see to believe, the T-Rex could hear dinner approaching before it even left its den. Asterisk. And that brings us to the most underrated navigation system, its feet. They weren't just 3-foot diameter pillars. They were sensory platforms with thousands of nerve endings. When it put its foot down, it felt vibrations from the ground like a modern elephant, but with pinpoint accuracy. A study published in Nature showed that in open terrain, it could distinguish between a herd of 10 adult hadrosaurs and 3 stray hatchlings, just by the way the ground shook. Asterisk. Think about it. An animal the size of a school bus, weighing as much as 3 SUVs, could detect you by smell, hear your breath from hundreds of feet away, see your outline in the dark, and feel your footsteps through the ground. No modern predator, not lions, not sharks, not orcas, has such a complete sensory array. But here's the paradox that puzzles scientists. With all this biological technology, why were arms so short? The answer will surprise you, and it's exactly what we'll explore in the next act, when we reveal how these supposed evolutionary failures were actually secret weapons. Asterisk. If the T-Rex's senses were advanced, its hunting apparatus was a masterpiece of evolution. Let's start with the most obvious. That 4-foot-long jaw, capable of swallowing you whole. But the real terror wasn't in its size, but in the engineering behind it. Each tooth, and there were 60 in total, wasn't just a knife. It was a specialized tool with serrated edges like a Swiss Army knife, capable of tearing flesh and crushing bone simultaneously. Paleontologists at Ohio State University discovered in 2022 that these teeth sharpened themselves as they bit. The more the T-Rex bit, the sharper they became. Nature created the first cannibal with self-renewable blades. And the strength? Here are the numbers that are spine-chilling. 12,800 pounds per square inch. To give you an idea, a lion bites at 1,000 psi. A Nile crocodile, the current champion, reaches 3,700 psi. The T-Rex? 3 times more powerful than the largest predator alive today. That force was enough to crush an adult Triceratops femur like a popsicle stick. Asterisk, asterisk. But what really made this bite unique was its biomechanics. Unlike modern crocodiles that rely on brute force, the T-Rex had a refined technique. First, a quick strike to rip off chunks of flesh. Then, a sideways jerk of the head like a great white shark to amplify the damage. Finally, it pressed its prey to the ground with its body weight as it chewed. It was a 6-ton meat processor. Asterisk. And here's the detail that few people know. Its teeth were not fixed. Electron microscope studies have shown that they moved slightly during the bite, distributing the force and preventing fractures. Think of a chainsaw with shock absorbers. That's how the T-Rex could chew through bones daily without breaking. Its deadly instruments. Asterisk, asterisk. Now let's solve the mystery that puzzles even children. Why were their arms so small? The conventional answer, that they were useless, is completely wrong. New research from the Chicago Institute of Paleontology has revealed that these 1-meter-long limbs were stronger than we imagined. Asterisk. Each arm could lift about 200 kilograms, the equivalent of 2 adult rugby players. And the claws? 3D analysis shows that they were curved like butcher's hooks, perfect for holding struggling prey to the ground while the jaws did the main work. In other words, these were not underdeveloped arms. They were specialized butcher's hooks. But the most surprising function was discovered in 2023. Muscle attachment. Marks suggest that they use their arms to push themselves up after sleeping, like a weightlifter using dumbbells. For an animal of this size, falling to the ground could be fatal. These short arms were literally their anti-collision device. Asterisk, asterisk, the final piece of the puzzle is the neck A, structure that combines power and surgical precision. Contrary to what movies show, the T-Rex didn't swing its head like a twig in the wind. Its neck had 7 vertebrae reinforced with fossilized tendons, allowing it to move as quickly as a boxer's punch. Asterisk, asterisk, when it attacked, its pattern was precise. First, a downward strike using the weight of its head as a battering ram. Then, a sideways twist to rip flesh. Finally, a backward pull to rip off chunks the size of a suitcase. Asterisk, asterisk, all this in less than 3 seconds faster than the time it takes you to bite into a hamburger. And the most incredible thing? Fossils show signs of wear that suggest a bite-and-run technique. It would tear apart its prey, retreat to avoid counterattacks, and return to feast when the victim was too weak to fight back. It wasn't just strength, it was pure strategy. Asterisk, asterisk, put it all together. Self-sharpening jaws, hooked arms, a hydraulic neck, and a tactical intelligence that anticipated movements. A result? A hunting efficiency that would make lions and sharks envious. While a modern lion fails in 70% of its attacks, it is estimated that the T-Rex succeeded in 8 out of 10 ambushes. And here's the final fact. Isotope analysis of fossils proves that it ate up to 150 kilograms of meat per day, the equivalent of devouring an adult human at every meal for 30 years straight. But even this perfect killer had a weak spot. And that's exactly what we'll explore next, when we reveal how oral diseases may have been the Achilles heel of the king of the dinosaurs. Behind the perfect killing machine was something even more fascinating. A complex mind that defies everything we know about dinosaurs. Let's start with the most persistent myth, that the T-Rex was just a brute with basic instincts. The truth? Its brain, though small in size, was one of the most advanced in the Cretaceous. Computerized tomography studies have revealed that the olfactory lobe occupied 30% of the cranial space larger than in any living land animal. But the real treasure was in the telencephalon, the region responsible for decision-making. Fossil traces show neural connections comparable to those of modern crows, considered the most intelligent birds. In practical terms, an adult T-Rex could memorize prey migration patterns, recognize dangerous terrain, and even anticipate climate change. And that brings us to social behavior, the most revolutionary discovery of the last decade. In 2021, Canadian paleontologists found a graveyard in Montana with 3 T-Rex of different ages, all with matching tooth marks. The conclusion? They lived in family groups where the adults taught the cubs to hunt, just like wolves do today. Imagine the scene: 5-ton adolescents being disciplined by their parents when they missed an attack. Asterisk, asterisk. What makes T-Rex truly unique is not just how it lived, but how it died. While other dinosaurs gradually disappeared before the asteroid struck, it remained on top until its final day. Its bones tell a story of resilience adapting to dramatic climate change, food shortages, and even prehistoric pandemics. And here's the most poetic fact: some of its DNA still lives on. Genetic studies prove that modern chickens share 60% of their genetic material with T-Rex. The next time you see a chicken fighting over food, remember, you're seeing echoes of the greatest predator that ever walked the earth. But that brings us to the ultimate question: how did this titan, after dominating the world for eons, meet its end? The answer is written in the iridium layers of Chicxulub. And that's exactly what we're going to explore. The twilight of the age of the dinosaurs was drawing to a close. As continents fractured and seas invaded plains, T-Rex faced its final challenge: a world in turmoil. Here on the plains of what is now Montana, Earth's top predator battled unseen foes. Climate change so abrupt, it would make our global warming seem like a gentle breeze. Analysis of fossil pollen reveals that in the last 500,000 years of its reign, average temperatures dropped by 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The forests of giant ferns that sheltered its prey gave way to tougher vegetation, an ecological disaster in slow motion. T-Rex bones from this period show something disturbing. Broken growth lines, a sign of chronic starvation. The king was wasting away on his throne. And then came the final blow. In the spring of its final year, when T-Rex cubs had barely learned to hunt, the sky lit up. A cosmic visitor 10 kilometers across was hurtling through the atmosphere at 70,000 kilometers per hour. In the minutes that followed, everything the T-Rex was, everything it had achieved, would be tested as never before. The asteroid was not an instant killer. Its true power lay in the chain of events it set in motion. First, the explosion equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs, incinerating everything for 1,000 kilometers around. T-Rexes near the impact were vaporized before they even realized the danger. An almost merciful killing. For the rest, a prolonged nightmare began. In the first few days, vitrified rocks fell from the sky as tiny meteorites rained down, reaching temperatures of 20 degrees Celsius. Burn marks on fossils from South Dakota proved that many survivors were literally cooked alive. Then came darkness. Clouds of dust blocking the sun for 18 months. Photosynthesis ceased. Food chains collapsed. And here's the cruelest detail. The T-Rex, adapted to dominate a stable world, became a victim of its own success. It's voracious. Metabolism required 150 kilograms of meat daily, impossible on a planet where 75% of species had disappeared. While turtles and crocodiles fell into a state of torpor, the giant simply burned inside. Our story ends with one specific individual. Specimen UCMP 137,538, discovered in Montana. Its bones tell a moving story. An adult female, about 28 years old, who miraculously survived for 3 years after the impact. Her femur shows healed fractures, evidence of desperate falls on slippery terrain. Her teeth, worn down to the roots, try to chew through bones already deprived of nutrients. By the end, it measured 36 feet from head to tail, and weighed less than a modern hippopotamus. Its last act? A futile attempt to attack a dead Ankylosaurus. The marks of its teeth on the armored bone of its prey are the perfect epitaph for a species that never learned to give up. But this is not a story about failure. It is about resilience. For 2 million years, 40 times longer than human existence to date, the T-Rex reigned supreme. Its DNA still echoes in every bird that sings today. Its lessons of survival are being studied by climate biologists. Even its catastrophic end teaches us something profound. In nature, there are no eternal winners, only temporary survivors. And perhaps there is poetic justice in that. The same impact that wiped out the dinosaurs created the conditions for our emergence. In a sense, we are the living legacy of the T-Rex, heirs to a planet it helped shape. The next time you look up at the night sky, remember, Somewhere out there is a 150 kilometers wide crater that once killed a king. The asteroid may have wiped out the T-Rex, but its legacy shaped the world as we know it today. As the cosmic dust settled over the devastated continents, something extraordinary was happening in the shadows. The survivors of the T-Rex's reign were inheriting the Earth. Small mammals that once lived in terror underground were now emerging on a planet devoid of giants. And here's the ultimate irony. It was the evolutionary pressure imposed by the T-Rex that shaped these mammals. Fossilized bones from the yaw. Late Cretaceous show that our ancestors evolved acute hearing, a keen sense of smell, and accelerated reproduction precisely to survive the age of the dinosaurs. In other words, we are in part what we are today because the T-Rex existed. DNA studies reveal that modern birds, the true heirs of the T-Rex, share surprising genes with their ancestor. Chickens have traces of serrated teeth in the embryonic stage. Ostriches retain the pneumatic bone structure that made T-Rex agile. Even the territorial behavior of a simple hummingbird echoes the dominant strategies that made the Cretaceous the longest reign of a predator in history. In 21st century laboratories, T-Rex continues to teach revolutionary lessons. Biomedical engineers study its biomechanics to develop more efficient prosthetics. Its hollow bones have inspired new architectural structures that combine lightness and strength. Even the formula for its perfect bite is being replicated in industrial robots. In 2023, Harvard researchers discovered that proteins preserved in a T-Rex fossil had unique antibacterial properties, a potential treasure trove for modern medicine. Meanwhile, paleontologists using artificial intelligence have recreated its hunting patterns, revealing strategies that are revolutionizing military robotics. But the real impact goes beyond technology. Studying T-Rex teaches us profound lessons about resilience, adaptation, and the limits of power. For 2 million years, it was evolutionary perfection personified. But in the end, it fell victim to the very rigidity that made it so effective unable to adapt when the rules of the game changed radically. As we look at our own changing planet, the T-Rex becomes a frightening mirror. We, as a dominant species, face similar dilemmas. How do we balance power with adaptability? How do we prevent our own perfect weapons from becoming our undoing? Climate. Scientists point to a disturbing parallel. Just as the T-Rex depended on a stable ecosystem, our civilization is deeply tied to specific climatic conditions. The crucial difference? We have the awareness and the responsibility to change our course. And herein lies perhaps the greatest lesson from the king of the dinosaurs. No predator, no matter how powerful, is greater than the planet that sustains it. Its story is a monumental reminder that even the most glorious reigns are subject to the unforgiving laws of nature. In the final moments of this documentary, we will reveal a discovery that has rewritten everything we knew. In 2024, a team in Canada found fossilized footprints showing an adult and a juvenile T-Rex walking together, dated to just weeks before the impact. The tracks reveal something poignant. The adult slowed to keep pace with the young. In the face of its imminent extinction, history's greatest predator displayed a behavior we could never have imagined. Parental care to the end. This is the true heritage of the T-Rex. Not just teeth and muscles, but the tenacity of life to persist, adapt, and when necessary, give way to the new. And so, 66 million years later, the cycle is complete. Where the T-Rex once roared, now its feathered descendants sing. Where its footsteps echoed, now we build our cities. Its story reminds us that every era has its end, and that every end carries the seeds of a new beginning. So, was the T-Rex perfect? Almost. If it had survived extinction, would it dominate our modern world? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this in-depth analysis, don't miss our next video revealing why the Spinosaurus might have been its only real rival.